Leaving. Bye. Good. I need my
Is that the
legs.
bag?
Oh, he was like, "There's too much noise. Go
You
to
know,
your bed."
normally, I don't know about you guys, but normally, podcast intros are so unimaginative. This is the podcast intro. People know who we are, but they should already know who we are. We've been bouncing up and down the timeline, the Twitter timeline all week. The hot topic at the moment, I have to say, first off, Kairos, you have got some people who will ride for you. I'm not talking about G. I'm not talking
You
about
should.
Sanga. Because we should ride for you. But people on the timeline went to war with you. So much so that off the back of last week's subject, which to be fair, we were polite around. We were dainty around. We weren't guns blazing, but people got the straight and narrow as soon as this dropped on the timeline. Really and truly, I have to say hats off to you. Seriously. Hats off to you, Kairos. You have got some people who are your ride or dies. Brother, I salute you. But as well as that, well done. Well done for keeping your cool, your calm, your reserve, and your collected self, because it could have went north. Now, obviously the person that we're talking about is no longer in the Twitter sphere. We're talking about Alex Scafidi. Now, Kairos, now that that's kind of like settled down, I know you were emotional last week. That is in the rearview mirror now. How do you feel? Do you feel you've got closure now?
No.
You don't?
I mean, closure in the sense of, all right, the situation has settled itself, and I understand. And I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you so much to everybody. I want to talk about them first because they are more important than her. Thank you, especially to the women. The women showed out more than everybody. The women deserve the props first. I'm scared to start shouting out names because I'm gonna forget names, but y'all, I love y'all so much. Y'all the greatest. Like, y'all showed out. Y'all were the tacticians, even though I shot y'all in the foot and was messing up stuff that y'all are trying to do and ruined it. I love y'all so much. Y'all are the greatest. You need somebody to fight somebody. You need somebody to I'll be there. Call me. I'm a catch a plane. I will help y'all out no matter what. So thoroughly grateful for that. But to answer your question, man, no, because she took the path that cowards take. You can't do the things that she has done and stand for the things that she's stood for and the way that she's done them, been about them and gone about them. And then when it's your time to sit at the table and take the criticism, you decide, I'm gonna skedaddle out of here. You can't do that. You can't do. She has done that to a lot of people and held them to this sort of barometer of righteousness and not stood in front of it herself. I don't like that. The tactics that she employed doing this and going about it too was super shady. She made it sure, all right, I'm being criticized. Every single person, I'm blocking them right now. And then also, I'm gonna wait for everybody to go to sleep. Even though I see these tweets in my hand, I see these mentions, and then I'm gonna post my apology when everyone's asleep. And then I'm also gonna deactivate my account a few hours later because people aren't receiving this apology as I see fit. So it's one thing if you sit there and take your lickings like an adult. It's another thing when you have set the fires that you have set and then just say, you know what, fuck it, we out of here, baby. I got no respect for that. That's why I'm saying that I didn't get the closure that I wanted, because I wanted the closure of a person who has done the things that they have done to stand there and now receive the things that they have put out there in the universe. Because I'm not confused about this. I know that there are a lot of people who had access to grind against her outside of what was going on with our situation. And they had to grind it right then and there because now they had cause and reason. I'm not a fool. I understand that, which is why she opted to bow out. That's not the closure that I was looking for, no. But it's okay though.
It must give you solace that, well, I'm not going to name the names of the people that reached out to me, but obviously some of you guys know because I showed you in the chat. It must give you some solace in the fact that some of the well-respected and nicest people in MMA were also rooting for you and basically just saying what had happened was just a travesty, which it was.
Yeah, it touched my heart. And I think the thing that touched my heart the most is that people just undying honesty. They didn't have to say anything to me. They didn't have to do anything. They don't owe me anything. And I said that to a certain individual and they enlightened me. They were just like, Kairos, I'm not doing this because I think I owe it to you. I'm doing this because I care about you. And that I never thought that would be something that someone a million miles away that I don't even know would ever say. And I was just like, wow, that's touching. And like, there's people who were just like, hey, I'm sorry for taking what you said at face value a few months ago, but like, there's just a lot of people who just touched me with that. And I feel like if there's a single positive thing about this situation, it's that I realize just how crazy our existence is right now. Like, we are in a time period where people who have never seen you face to face or talk to you face to face, or even probably know who you are as an individual fully, can gather around you and help you out through like a tough situation. Because had these people not stood up, I guarantee you this, she would have been still talking to random people, not just her friends, but reporters and fighters, and been saying whatever she was saying about me and other people. And that definitely would have hampered on my ability to go forward with what I want to do in my vision. So I just love y'all so much. I really do appreciate that. And I would never forget it.
Good.
God, getting me emotional thinking back.
Yeah, same here. I'm getting choked up.
You're the one asking the questions. Don't ask me the questions if you don't want. Dang.
No, man, it's
No.
good. It's good to see you open up on it. Obviously, you haven't got the full closure that you wanted, but it's something to be honest. And like, you can now begin to put this chapter of your life fully behind you.
Correct. Good.
As you do have the mic, Kairos. As usual, we assemble with our guns drawn for shots fired. What are you bringing to the table this week?
So I've started to see certain drops in performances and spikes in performances due to this time that we're having. And I remember when that first happened, I remember when Leon had to not take his fight with Woodley because he was afraid that if he were to go to America, he might not be able to come back and he'd be separated from his family. There's a lot of factors playing into that people just refuse to ignore. And so in my mind, I was thinking, okay, the world's shutting down right now. That is certainly going to have an effect on these fighters' ability to find training partners to go to, because there's a lot of fighters who go to multiple gyms. There's a lot of fighters who have their strength and conditioning across the city. They have different places that they have to be at different times because they just find the right team and the right group of people to be around. They like to mesh with those people. And I was saying that, I was like, I think a lot of these fighters' performances are going to drop as a result. I think a lot of their ability to get the rehabilitation and get the right pieces in place for them to be successful are going to take a suffer as well. And I've talked to a lot of people who train, and a lot of them are like, no, it's fine. A lot of them have been training this entire time. It won't be an issue. And I was just like, well, they are a fighter and they train, so obviously I can't be like, nah, but this is what's going to really happen. Like, I felt like I had no leg to stand on when actually asking these people these things. But now I think that we're starting to see that sort of issue. Like, you have people having back spasms in between their fight and then having to bow out before they can go out to the cage. We haven't really seen that a lot ever. Like, the last time we saw that happen, I think someone like head hit a pipe 2 decades ago and they couldn't like do it.
Okay,
like, was it?
I think so. Maybe it's just my fucked up memory.
It might be Kevin Randall. It might have been Kevin Randleman. No, I think you're right. But like, and then you see people having to pull out because of obviously COVID symptoms too. But then like the fights rematched and they're like, oh, I caught an injury in training camp too, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but we see a lot of these fighters who were getting these injuries and dealing with a lot of these things. They had never been pulling out a fight splitter. They were never doing all these other things. So it was just like, maybe I'm trying to find a reason for these things and I'm looking too deep into it, but maybe at the same time, there's something here though too, because a lot of people are quarantining. A lot of people are not traveling to Florida for a half of their camp and going back to Alabama or whatever. Like, I think that there's a serious issue here. And unless, well, I don't want to go down that route. I'm just going to say, I think it's a serious issue here. Tell me if you agree or not. And let's go with Mr. Michael Morgan first. Uh-oh, he's frozen.
Yeah, and at that point, my internet decides to freeze. Yeah, well, you know, just to repeat back to me what you just said in terms of like the last question, because my internet, like I say, I lost you at the end there.
Sorry, I was talking too much. My question, simple and plain, is do you think COVID is affecting the performance of these athletes in a negative way?
100%. We've seen it with the weight cuts. We've seen it in terms of these kind of like almost freakish last minute changes. Now, albeit that be the once, but what are they also working through? That is just one that we've seen. debilitate someone to a point where they weren't able to go out there. And so my answer is yes, we've seen it. And I think this is the ongoing reason why we've had this issue with the weight cuts, because COVID is playing a part. Plus, we've also seen it now in terms of long COVID affecting those people who've had COVID. I mean, even recently, you don't even need to bring up this example, but, you know, really and truly, we know why we're not seeing Edwards versus Khamzat. We know why that isn't taking place. Now, for me, I really do feel that this is going to be something which is going to be, we're going to be seeing on an ongoing basis. And it's, you know, high time we kind of like, I know it's an old cliche, I know it's something that we keep saying, or I keep saying, we're in the middle of a pandemic. What do we expect? So yes, is the short answer. I do think that is a reason.
Yeah, man, and the COVID's even affecting the salmon. You know, it's even affecting this. Like, it's even affecting the salmon. Even the salmon are holding excess water, 11.5 pounds or what have you. Like, yeah, as Mike said. Man, I mean, while we're here, what did people make of that weight cut? Like the 11.5, like, or the bottom?
It was horrendous. 2 weight classes.
Yeah, he missed the non-title limit for a lightweight bout. That's
when he brought up salmon, I was like, is it in your motherfucking pocket? What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what you mean salmon? I eat salmon. I don't say that I tip the scales afterwards, but yeah. I thought maybe he put it in his pocket or some shit, but no, yeah. I think, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking of somebody literally putting a salmon in their pocket before any.
I just didn't understand the explanation. I figured, you know.
Yeah, but I think we are seeing the effects of fighters not being able to freely move and to freely train. And some fighters have they've been talking about it. They're saying, oh, well, my training camp isn't what it's used to. I've been training in my garage or whatever. Some have had success, some haven't. And to go off Mike's point, yeah, there's still going to be a pandemic. And yes, there's vaccines going on in the world right now. But COVID's here to stay, and people are going to have long-term COVID effects. And there's going to be fighters who are still dealing with these long-term COVID effects, but will still fight because they need the paycheck. And I think subsequently their performances are going to suffer as a result of that.
Yeah. Here's my question, since you guys understand weight cutting more than me. I spoke to this person who trains with a lot of high level people. They aren't a professional fighter, but they're a wrestler. And they told me that when fighters get food poisoning, it's almost a lot easier for them to lose weight. Is that true or is that false? Were they like BS me, or like, that's why I don't want to put their name up.
Bro, I don't want to get crass here, but if you never had the runs before, like
that's what I'm saying. Like I would assume it'd be easier to lose weight because
it's easy, but you feel horrible for it. So it's
okay. I would disagree. I'd say it's harder to lose weight because one of the things that, or the 2 times that I've had food poisoning, the doctor over the phone was saying the immediate thing that you have to do is flush it out of your system. You have bacteria in your body, and that is why your body is behaving in the way that it's doing. The way to do it is to get as much water as you can in your body so that it flushes it out. So obviously, with water being in your body, that adds to your weight. So I would say no, definitely difficult in order to cut weight if you got food poisoning.
Also dealing with the illness, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and throwing up and doing what else in between. No, it's not a nice thing to have.
Yeah, exactly.
They bugging. They lying.
Question for y'all before I give my piece on Kairos' segment. Do y'all work out?
Yeah, I was working out in the park today.
Exactly, and notice
yesterday evening.
Exactly. I work out too, and I prefer to work out in a gym. And I like to work out like Monday through Thursday in a gym consistently. Now, since COVID, I have not been doing that. You know what I'm saying? And if you heard correctly, Chisanga just said his black ass was just working out in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? Like we live in a time where like regular folks like me, you, Mike, and Kairos can't even go to the gym. Don't forget, y'all, right behind me is a speed bag and a heavy bag because I can't go to the gym. I'm not a professional athlete. Can you imagine being a professional athlete and you can't go to the gym? Yeah. And you have to cut weight You have to devise a plan to beat an opponent that is on your professional level. And that means flying partners out that fight similarly to your opponent. Do you think that's happening during COVID right now?
No. Or with great difficulty. With great
difficulty. Thank you. And matter of fact, Max Holloway is training via Zoom. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are doing that. When I thought about getting a personal trainer in here because I have the equipment now, people were like, you might have to set up Zoom and hit pad. I was like, what? Like Zoom and a trainer, bitch. Hey, I'll just do some push-ups right here. I'm okay. You better behave, Kitty. He's already acting up, y'all. He's looking at me. Get out. But yeah, so I'm thinking I can't go to the gym. Chisanga's in the parking lot doing squats, and we just at home getting fat. Can you imagine a professional athlete? Of course, COVID is affecting them. And not only that, COVID is making them sick. You're going to have long haulers. You're going to have fights canceled because of COVID. And then behind the scenes, excuse me, I'm getting a phone call. And then behind the scenes, people can't go to the gym. And if you notice too, Kevin Gastelum built a gym in his garage. I saw it embedded. Molly McCann built a gym. And mind you, they're used to like high-tech facilities, putting stuff together, probably like everyone else from Amazon, I Wish, and just collecting stuff from Facebook Market. And it's just, we're all in this grind together. So I most definitely think professional athletes cannot train and fly out to sparring partners during a global pandemic. And we're seeing it in the cage. Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the only way they could do it is if they fly somebody out and like have them isolate for like 10 days, undergo a series of tests. But who's going to do that during that hassle? You know, it's too much.
Yeah.
And it's expensive. You're paying for their time. So flying them out so far in advance, no, that's cheddar. No one can afford that.
You got to have a big bag for that, man. And speaking of big bags, right? Speaking of big bags, I'm going to take
that segue. No. Respect to that segue.
Okay, so I think it's quite pertinent and quite fitting that I actually bring up this topic because I was on Fight Island at the time when this madness happened. Obviously, everybody knows I'm referring to Ottman Azaitar's what's a nice way I could put it? Breaking of the rules. Okay, we'll just say breaking of the COVID protocols when apparently he met with somebody outside the bubble and this person was shimmying across balconies to deliver some sort of bag. We don't know what was in this bag, this mystic bag. This bag is going to go down in MMA folklore now. But the long and short of it was that Dana White, I think it was it was before the Magny Chiesa fights. It said that Azaitar is gone.
Someone's at my door again. Be right back.
It's all right.
Brooklyn be popping. I'll be right back. I'm listening, but I'm gonna mute this camera because y'all can't see who's at the door. But I'm listening. I'll be talking and hearing.
Anyway, as I was saying, Dana White, to quote him directly, I think it was, he's gone. He's no longer a UFC fighter. Now, less than a month later or so, I think it was Brett Okamoto that broke the news that Azaitar is still on the UFC roster. And now, given when Dana says somebody's gone, they're gone. And that has been the word of God. That has been the gospel. When that has happened, people have been banished. Like the biggest name that comes to mind for me is Paul Daly. Remember how adamant he was after Paul Daly punched Josh Koscheck after that he's never going to come back. And he said, even if he goes on to be the best welterweight in the world, I'm never going to sign him. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But Ottman Azaitar is still a UFC fighter. Now, I think his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, we all know that he's got some sway with the UFC. Some sway, I say. I think his omnipotent presence over the roster and the matchups could be made had something to do with this. But also, and this was some good reporting from the main man, Kareem Zidane. Kareem surmised that what's his name? Ottman. I keep getting confused with Abu. Ottman's relationship with King Mohammed VI of Morocco also had something to do with Ottman staying on the UFC roster, and the fact that he's one of the most promising fighters from the Middle East and North African region. I think acronym for that is MENA, MENA. But anyway, before we delve deep into the details of this, what were your initial reactions to the news that Ottman was still on the roster? Ottman is still getting the bag on the roster. And I'm going to go to Kairos first.
I was thinking Ali must have Dana White's nudes and threatening to release
Oh
him.
my God. That's what was in the bag.
That was in the bag. A video of just Dana White's like.
Oh my goodness.
Nah,
crazy.
I gotta make fun of these jokes. Come on, y'all. This is funny. Anyway, yeah, we can always surmise, oh, well, he's just a promising prospect that can unlock a region in the world to help the UFC further expand. Okay, so is Paul Daly. Okay, so is Yair Rodriguez. They kicked them both out. Well, Yair got to come back, but like, they're like, I don't. And I think Ali, as much as people want to hate him, he has a foothold, and there's a reason for it. Whatever it is, he has control.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's as simple a fact as this. There's an old adage in life: it ain't who you know, it's who knows you. Ali has a stranglehold on the UFC because of how many fighters that he brings to the table, and fighters of note. Plus, I think superb reporting from Kareem Zidane. Again, it ain't who you know, it's who knows you. Royalty is involved in this man's life. Of course that has sway. Of course that has pull. And that's what it boils down to, sway and pull.
Yeah, and I think, I can't remember which one of the brothers it was, but when they were having difficulties getting a visa to get into America, the king had pulled a few connections, and then lo and behold, was granted a visa.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that a royal from an African country, no less, as well, is influencing the UFC. But I also think it's something to do with the partnership that they announced with the Culture and Tourism Board, the Departure Culture and Tourism Board. Obviously, it's a 5-year partnership, and that's I think they signed that in 2018, and the first event was Habib versus Poirier, and I'm pretty sure the Fight Island deal is something different. So I think, given the fact that he's a prominent fighter in the region and that deal that the UFC have with them, I think it'd be safe to say that was probably at the forefront of their mind, or not at the forefront, but it came up in conversation when they were making the decision whether or not to give him his marching orders. G, what's your thoughts?
I'm back, y'all. Okay, but I was listening the whole time. I think he's an asset to the UFC. And I think if you bring money to this organization, they fly you out to get, COVID treated. They bail you out of jail. They they bring you back, even though people like Paul Daly was not brought back. We still don't know what was in that bag. It could have been drugs. It could have been, who knows, but it doesn't matter because he's an asset and he's coming back. Paul Daly lost his temper. He punched someone after the bell. It was disgusting, but I do think at some point he could have been brought back if he issued an apology. But if you're not bringing this organization money, they're not breaking their neck for you, and they're not going to bend any rules for you. And this guy, let me tell you, he's got from what I've heard allegations that he has been involved in domestic violence, that he's quite involved in criminal activity where he comes from. And once again, I'm going to say alleged. This is stuff that people have been telling me in my DMs. I don't know him, so I want to put that out there. But I have heard that he's a cruddy guy where he lives, and he has all types of ties to criminals and whatnot. And I also I've seen it with my own eyes. He's got dynamite in both hands. He's a knockout artist. Okay. He has power in his left and right hands. And even in his UFC debut, and I believe in his last fight, he knocked out his opponent. So he's an action fighter. He's got ties to Abu Dhabi. He's got ties to Kings. And then on top of that, he's a fan favorite. And then the UFC loves scoundrels. They love men that beat women. They love men. They love that little edge of he's a bad boy. Look, you know what I'm saying? They vouch for those types. So I think he fits in perfectly with the UFC. And he's an asset to them. So of course they're going to bend the rules and bring him back. But I want to know what's in the bag.
That's it. I mean, that's one of the greatest MMA.
I keep hearing cocaine and peds and women. I even heard abroad. I heard they snuck abroad in the bag.
Actually, I've actually got Ali Abdelaziz's tweet up, because obviously he tweeted after Okamoto revealed that he's still on the roster, and I'll bring it up here. He said, "Very grateful to, and I'm assuming Dana White, and humbled by this decision. There are others I want to thank. They know who they are, and we appreciate them very much, and that this was done way above my pay grade." So I think that basically tells you everything that you need to know, that King Mohammed, maybe had some sort of influence over this decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, good for him. I'm glad he's in a position where he can get a second chance. Many others were not given that.
Yeah.
And I don't like his background, if it's true, but they're just allegations. But I do like his fighting style. So if they bring him back and he performs the way that he does, I, as a fan that enjoys violence, will enjoy the show.
To be fair, like you say, G, they are allegations. There are no
exactly
concrete evidence around this. And just like you, I'm looking forward to seeing him do work. And really and truly, we're getting that opportunity now. So let's not.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I'm excited by the fact that he's still on the roster, but it's just
intriguing. Me too.
It's just intriguing the U-turn, because obviously when similar decisions have been made in the past, that is it. It's etched in stone. It's never
correct.
Changed. The UFC aren't going to perform any U-turn or what have you. But it is what it is. To be honest, as you said, if you like, it's as Mike said, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And if they want to go for bat for you, sorry, they will do so.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way of the world. Like, we bash the UFC a lot, but what job doesn't have favoritism, treats the person with the, I mean, it happens that I think probably at all our jobs. The star employee gets the perks. He leaves early. He does this, the kiss ass. So, we bash the UFC a lot, or I say a lot of slick shit, but it ain't no different from any organization or any job sometimes,
No, that's very true.
Yeah. I think I'm up, fellas, right?
Yeah, indeed you are.
All right, here we go. So I want to discuss emotional promotions. And what that means is that when an MMA organization gets behind a fighter's storyline, or maybe a tragedy that has happened to them, and they try to get the fans to emotionally connect to that storyline and to that particular fighter. And I have 3 examples to get y'all thinking about what I'm talking about. The most recent example that I can think of course, is the Black History debacle with Michael Chandler. Okay. That was the UFC's way of getting us to get into Black History Month by showcasing white parents around Black history. But they did try to get us to feel that heartfelt moment for that kid. And some people did, and I did too, but I just was like, what does this have to do with Black History Month? You know what I mean? I would have preferred if they did that when Chandler is a co-main or a main event. That would have been perfect. I'd have been like, this is cute, but it's not to celebrate our history. And they tried to promote this so much on the show. Second example, the death of Walt Harris's daughter caused on UFC on ESPN, we had a fight against Overeem and Walt Harris. The UFC, the entire broadcast was about rallying behind Walt Harris. They even discussed pertinent information about her death, and they got us emotionally involved, and we already were. But here's the problem. Overeem kicked his ass, and we were not able to get that feel-good story that they were trying to push on us. So we connected with Walt, our hearts broke, but we didn't get the fairy tale ending. I thought that was also a debacle, but I'm just one person. It's my opinion. Last example, even Bellator does this shit. Bellator had a fight with Nemkov versus Bader. The whole time, they kept promoting a nice family time in the living room with no mask during a pandemic. There was a bunch of people from Bader's family in the living room cheering him on. But what they didn't think about was the fact that Nemkov beat his ass badly in front of all those people that gathered to watch Ryan Bader beat him. And it was so bad that they cut the barbecue and the family outing, and they stopped going to them after the knockout, because now it's kind of awkward. And I remember feeling weird, like every other, interruption in the broadcast was his wife and his family with no mask, like, we're here to see our baby. And then their baby got smushed. And then they stopped going back to the family because obviously they were upset. You know what I mean? So I think those are debacles. I think they're a mess. My question for you is,
Okay, just before you go to your question, I'm going to move myself to the other room as it looks like the main studio is now available. But you carry on ahead. I'm going to be working in the background, moving studios. But yeah,
you're doing one of my moves. Yeah, you listening, but you moving.
Yeah.
So I won't pick you first, Mike. So go do what you got to do. But the question is, why do we need these types of promotions, and are they working? Jasanga, take the lead since Mike is running around.
I think you're always going to have a motive promotion from promoters. It's their job to humanize these athletes and show that they're not just killing machines and what have you. But with regards to and not to mention, obviously, if it's a pertinent, I'm losing my words and getting jumbled over my words. It's been a long ass day. If it's a relevant part of the storyline going into the fight, I think it has to be told. Now, there's certain ways in which you can do it, but I think the UFC, a lot of people said that they went over the top with Walt Harris, and obviously the tragic death of his.
I thought so.
Of his daughter Anaya. I was kind of torn. While I completely agreed that they should have highlighted the issue, obviously, because it was Walt's first fight since the loss of Anaya. But I kind of think that they. I don't want to criticize them for highlighting the tragedy, but
especially a Black woman, when they don't tip without the UFC, when Black women go missing or when they're harmed, there isn't much of publicity. So I was grateful that the UFC gave her a voice, a name, and got people from all walks of life to feel for Walt Harris, because a lot of people don't do that for Black women. No, we still talking about Beth Holloway. You know, this bitch went missing 30 years ago. They still talking about her. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But Black women go missing all the time. And I was happy the UFC did something for her. But I just thought it's becoming exploitative. And then at the end, he got his ass kicked.
There's a very fine line between like tugging on people's heartstrings and overtly tugging on them and like milking a tragedy. But I fell into the category where I didn't think it was excessive. I thought it was necessary, but I thought there were certain aspects that they probably could have. What's a better way of putting it? They probably could have. I don't want to say streamlined or whatever or what have you, because that sounds a bit crass. They could have managed certain things a bit better.
Me too.
In terms of emotive promotion, it's what sells though. Like with the Conor McGregor Khabib, like the dolly, the bus incident, that's emotion. That's something that sells, and that's always going to be present in fight sports. So when you do it from the emotional side of hatred, I think you've also conversely, you've got to do the same of when there's tragedy and what have you, because as I said, that helps humanize the athletes, that helps tell the stories, and it also crosses over into the mainstream as well, which is what they want to do. Correct.
Kairos, what's on your mind? Do we need these types of promotions, and are they working?
We do need these type of promotions, and they are not working. I spoke to someone. Sorry, I remember this conversation very intently because I spoke to this person in about 2018, 2019. They worked for the UFC and they worked for a few other organizations. Because I was interested in what it was like working for promotions, and I found this person on LinkedIn. So they told me that the UFC's biggest problem is they can't tell a story for shit. And at the time when he said that, at the time I was just like, what does this person mean? And now, like, looking at them putting together these constant packages that are tone deaf, that aren't aware, that don't understand how to frame certain things and what to focus and fixate on, it's just like, that motherfucker was right. Like, how on earth do you put together a Black history centered promotion and the center figure of it is a white guy? That is the most, what? And I know
they have Black athletes, Black love, Black relationships, Black children. And Black History Month is the celebration of Black people because our history has been whitewashed. So you take this month to bring up all the people that, we didn't learn about. You don't bring up white people that adopted Black kids. You do that on his own motherfucking segment. But go ahead, Kairos. This gets me riled up.
Yes. And they took the time to whitewash it again. I was like, first of all, Michael Chandler has had one fight in this organization. 2, Michael Chandler is not even fighting on this card. 3, Michael Chandler's white. 4, there are so many different stories you could. How about we talk about the fact that Daniel Cormier is the first ever champion to fight, win both titles, and defend both of them first? Don't tell me, excluding Amanda Nunes, don't tell me about Henry Cejudo because that title was vacated. Don't tell me about Conor because we know he don't defend shit. How about we talk about Demetrius Johnson, the man who's one of the most underappreciated fighters in MMA history, and we know why. We know why. We know why. They didn't want to promote him.
But Kairos, how about the Curtis Blades and his beautiful wife and the baby was enough for Black history? For me, it's called Black love. Let's celebrate it. We don't see that often. And when I saw that, I was at home like, look at Black love, y'all. You know what I mean? And then it was ruined with let's celebrate white people adopting Black kids when one, that is not a part of our Black history. It's not how we celebrate Black history. We celebrate ourselves because y'all didn't let us do that when we were brought here in the first place and you whitewashed our history. You don't bring white people into Black history. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's our month. Do that shit when he's co-maining a fight or he's a main event fighter, Michael Chandler. I guarantee you run that same promo and I'm going to be like, look at that little happy Black baby with them white parents. I'm not going to be upset because that child is loved, but you did it during a month when we're supposed to be celebrating shit because y'all didn't want us to celebrate ourselves. Fuck you. Get out of here.
I'm not gonna lie. I was fast asleep when this whole thing had happened. Like
I gave his sister.
I tapped out pretty early, but I think it was Andreas Hale's tweet that came to my attention. Like the thread that he put out. And at first I thought, because when I woke up, I thought I read it in a daze, but lo and behold, no. They made Michael Chandler and Bree Chandler's adoption of I think the son's called Hap is his name. I think that's his name.
That name sound problematic already. His name is Hap.
Anyway,
fuck out of here.
Could have been given that beforehand. I don't know. But
yeah, okay.
I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I was flabbergasted. I just don't know how. I'm trying to say this in like the most
respectful. Do we need this shit? This is what you see how we upset. You see how Black people just. Do we need this?
But it just when these packages are getting made, or like when any company makes any sort of decision to put something out into the public sphere, it gets vetted at least 2 or 3 times, and then there's a superior who signs off on it. And I'm just curious to know who would be the one who signed off on it. First of all, I want to know who was the one that pitched it and was like, okay, yeah, let's do this for Black History Month. When there's numerous stories that you could bring to the forefront. Even Derek Lewis, just bring up the fact that Derek Lewis, when that you had the Houston floods, that he saved about 100 people with his pickup truck. And I mean, that's completely more relevant because obviously.
And then did he save a racist too? Y'all want to bring up white people? Bring up the fact he saved a racist if you want. Like, just celebrate Black people. Yeah, I heard something that he.
But yeah, I was just completely baffled. I was like, why are you making this Michael Chandler's adoption of a Black child in Black History Month? Why is this the focus? And I think Michael Chandler got a lot of hate for unnecessarily, and him and his wife. And
no, that's just ignorant. Yeah, it's the UFC.
It's ignorant. Like I mean, I think it was a blunder in the UFC's part, and they just got to accept it. And people just have to understand that it had nothing to do with Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, I'm sure he didn't go to the UFC and was like, oh, I want to be the one to talk about Black history because I have Black. And
everything he said is probably true. We don't know that, man. Even though he was on Parler, who knows if he's really trying to educate his kid? I might not agree with how he's doing it, but in his mind, he's probably trying to educate his kid.
Of course. And,
so, you know,
anyway, it was a
not his fault.
I mean, hopefully this serves as a lesson for them going forward, and that they can adequately highlight the stories that need to be highlighted. But yeah, as I said before I went on this rant, I was a bit flabbergasted. But we'll see what happens this weekend. Another two more Black men fighting this weekend. I hope that their stories get highlighted in Jorginho Rosenstrike and Cyril Gagné. But yeah, we'll see.
Mike, what do you think? Do we need this shit, and is it working?
Put it this way, having spent 25 years working for government, this is their MO in terms of communications. And you'll find this in every major corporation and large entity. This is how they communicate. They communicate on an emotive level, because black, white, regardless of what spectrum of the actual rainbow you are on, a story will always have resonance with your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Make a story emotive, whether it be in print, whether it be in audio, whether it be in video, and you have captured your audience. You have actually ticked off every single aspect of what you're trying to communicate because it's emotive. You, G, are a really good example of this in terms of emotive and emotion in action. Look at the Chandler 2-minute piece. Look how much emotion that it has actually erupted in you. That was the stated aim, to get that emotion, yes,
I don't need it.
That emotion, but it was in the wrong place.
Yes.
The VT, before he goes out to his next fight, not in Black History Month, wasn't pertinent for Black History Month, but still had the stated aim of being emotive. It was a story which connected with you, but in the wrong place.
Yeah. Good point, Michael. And I do agree with you. Like, it did bring out an emotion, but that's why I asked, do we need this shit? Because I watch fights to watch the violence and to kick it with y'all on Twitter. I don't need somebody reminding me that, my history has been whitewashed on the UFC, and I'm annoyed. So that's why I'm like, do we need this? But one more last question before I pass the mic. Y'all watch other sports? Does the NBA do stuff like this, or is the UFC just trash with promoting? Like, do other organizations drop the ball with emotional promotions? Like, does the NBA, do they promote something wrong and the fans be like, oh my God? Like, is it just the UFC that fucks this up in Bellator? Is it MMA?
I'm sure there are other sports that do it, but to be honest, I only really watch football, boxing, and mixed martial arts. Those are my go-to sports. And the football, obviously, because they've been around for so long, and it's a business for them, and everything is streamlined. So you seldom get out of place promotions or out of place interviews or out of place adverts or what have you. It's very, very rare.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna say yes and yes. The other sports do these packages and promotions, but I'm gonna be fair here. I'm not gonna sit here and ignore the fact that I have this knowledge. A lot of these sports have had generations to work out the growing pains of producing these packages through trial and error. The NFL, they were putting out some shitty shit for years. And then, of course, at the turn of the 20th century, they got better. They took a leap. 2010, they got better. They took a leap. So they've had the time to improve upon these so they don't have these mistakes. Same with you have, what else? I watch college football. They talk about people all the time in a non-exploitative way. They talk about the hardships of certain people having to deal with their problems. I watch lacrosse too, but the problem with lacrosse is similar to MMA. I feel like that's a better comparison. Like, you have a similar group of people in control of the media and in control of these checks and balance systems of, all right, is this okay to put out? And they put out like the most stereotypical stuff. Like, we all know that lacrosse is a Native American origin sport, but it's white dominated. And whenever they do packages on people who are Native Americans, it's the most like really type of story. So I get it. And I understand that people make mistakes, but the best save for you right now would be to do better with comprising your groups of these people who are checking these products before you put them out, as well as putting people in positions of power, variance in background, variance in race, and variance of all that. I think that's the best way that we can go about this, because as it stands, like, I'm just not with it. And one more thing, though. We aren't upset at Michael Chandler. We don't hate Michael Chandler. We don't hate his
put it out there.
We aren't upset that they have a black child. We're upset at the way the UFC positioned this information for us to digest. I feel like a lot of people are missing that point and thinking that this is some sort of class or race warfare against white people being talked. No, that's not what this is.
I think the people that are upset don't really understand the origin of Black History Month. It is a celebration of Black people because our history has been whitewashed, destroyed, and suppressed. So when we celebrate this month, it's about us. And we only have 1 month, and we've done so much for this world and this country. Let us have a month. Celebrating white parents adopting a Black child has nothing to do with Black history, and it is not the celebration of Black folks or the African diaspora. It's not. I guarantee you, if you put that segment on a fight with Michael Chandler, where he is the co-main event or main event, I would have been smiling from ear to ear, because that baby looked happy regardless of how you feel. That baby is in his everlasting glory, and that makes me smile. I do not have an issue with Michael Chandler.
I think as well, if you look at the brief and if you look at the original press release, they said, and it was a stated aim, that it was going to celebrate Black athletes. It was going to put those achievements in front of us. That what we saw this weekend was not it.
No. In fact, there are other athletes that have Black children. Are they going to also interview Nicholas Dalby and celebrate the fact that he is a biracial child? You know what I'm saying? Like, remember, Mike, I was the one that found that on Instagram, and I put it all over my page. I have no issue with white parents adopting Black children. I have no problem with white and Black people getting together and making beautiful interracial children. But when it comes to Black History Month, let's keep this celebration about our history, Black people, and the African diaspora. Okay, we didn't need that, and it was a slap in the face, but I am fine with him adopting that child. Yeah. And I think it's adorable. That child looked happy.
Yeah, it annoyed me, like, that I saw loads of people, first of all, be like, oh my God, Michael Chandler's got a Black son, like, as if it's like, anyway, that annoyed the hell out of me. Then people attacking him for and saying, oh yeah, this is his fault or what.
Yeah, and I got mad at people attacking me or other Black people. You know, for us, I saw so many people like, fuck y'all for not even enjoying this nice family moment. And it's just like,
I couldn't believe that.
I was like, this is about Black history. Can, like, people please humanize us just for once? We are people. We're not objects. You know what I'm saying? Like, let us have a month to celebrate ourselves. And they just can't have it. Either they got to be a part of it or they got to ruin it. You know what I mean? So just leave us alone and let us celebrate this month, goddammit, you know? That's my rant, fellas. I'm sorry. This bothers me.
It'll be interesting to see what happens this coming weekend.
Yeah. And don't forget, there's other white fighters with Black children. So don't be surprised if maybe they push it down our throats again. I don't trust this company the way they paraded Trump. Nicholas Dalby has a Black child. Is that coming up next?
I don't think so. But
I'm shook.
Especially after this, after the backlash to the 2-minute Chandler piece. I don't anticipate that happening. It'll be interesting to see what happens, to be honest.
Yeah.
We'll see. And again, this is, well, we talked about this at the start of the month. This is their first time actively celebrating Black History Month, sorry. So I think, obviously, as Kyra said, you talked about companies putting out packages and making learning curves, whatever. This is a learning curve for the UFC, and it'll be interesting to see what happens this time next year.
Yeah.
I'm with you, OG. I mean, really and truly, this is Black History Month. And in terms of rankings, we should be at the top of it. Speaking of rankings, see what I did there? Speaking of rankings, we had we had Bellator actually announce mid last week that they were introducing rankings for their divisions, and those rankings would be actually determined by a select panel, an interim select panel of assembled media journalists. My question really, and what I'm bringing to the table this week, is twofold. One, that select media, albeit interim, did seem not as representative or as international as the roster. I was quite, I suppose, concerned that there wasn't like a UK contingent there. And I'm thinking specifically about big outlets like maybe somebody who works for The Sun. Had he been asked, I would have expected to see him on there, because really and truly, that is something which maybe for some people isn't their cup of tea, maybe for some people isn't their, or doesn't satisfy their palate, but it's still a major outlet. And you are a very, very accomplished journalist. I was surprised that you weren't on it. So, as I say, my question is twofold. One, do we really need Bellator rankings? Two, in terms of representation, is the interim or is the
Oh, Mike done froze.
I'm going to start with Kairos.
Mike, can you ask the question again? Your mic froze.
You done froze at the worst time.
Yeah, the question went out. So repeat the question.
Okay, the question is this. It's a twofold question. We have seen the interim board, as it were, the interim ranking panel announced. Now that panel, for me, wasn't as international as the actual roster. I was quite surprised, as I mentioned, that I didn't actually see someone like Chisanga Malata, someone of his stature on that, from the outlet that he's actually currently at. It's a major outlet. I consider it to be a major outlet. So that's the first question. Are we happy with the emerging panel? But secondly, do we really need Bellator rankings on top of everything else? And I'm going to start with Kairos.
Most need rankings. Yes, I'm happy about the introduction of the rankings. No, I'm not happy about the implementation of it. And that's the problem. People need to understand this. Okay, there are systems that have been set in place and perfected over generations for you to understand how the inner workings of them. The UFC's rankings are absolute god-awful, fucking ass. Don't look at them to understand how to make some rankings. Look at a different sport. I'll give you an example. College football has a ranking system that is twofold. One is based off a computer calculation. The other is based off of you ask every single coach of every single team in your division who should be ranked where, and rankings are presented accordingly as top 25. You don't ask everybody about all 217 teams, but you at least have some sort of representation for everyone. I'm glad you brought that up about them not having representation for the diversity of the organization, because that's important. You can't have a panelist of primarily American journalists making rankings when there's when there's fighters all over the globe that just, because bias is implicit and explicit, and that's going to happen. And that's definitely going to happen with these rankings. I promise you that. I promise you people are going to be looking at these rankings and be like, yeah, that seems about Bellator. And that's going to be the issue. They're going to lose credibility even though they tried to take a step forward. I think that sample size is also important to you. You should not have 5, 10 committee members. You should be having close to, like, I'd say 20 to 50 to 100 people polling with these things. And then you take the average, like each person is given a number. It's like, all right, he should be 1, he should be 2, and then you grab all that, put it into a spreadsheet, give averages, and they're like, all right, well, this person's average is 1.2. Obviously, they're the number one contender, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't understand why people think that 5 people on earth have all the right answers, or 10 people. No, it's a collective mind space, collective mind graph, and that's sort of what people need to start catering rankings to. But that's not going to happen for mixed martial arts because they just want to do things so differently because they think that they're so different from everybody else. And that's just not the case. Get it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, well, as you said, I don't want to insult anybody.
Oh, you on the floor?
I don't want to insult anybody that's on the UFC rankings, but some of the UFC rankings are, okay, a nice way for me to put it would say they're questionable. We'll say that. But I just don't think Bellator needs a ranking list, do they? Or
why?
Or if they do, they need. What the hell is Kairos reacting to, man?
Yeah, word. I feel the same way. I'm like, they don't need rankings. Yeah, it's just mumbo jumbo. How people get titles and blah blah blah. Like, what the fuck, bro?
As it pertains to well, I know Mike was pretty pissed not to see my name on that list. I wasn't. Plus, me personally, I don't think media members should be involved in promotions rankings. That's just me. That's not me having a slight any of the UFC ranking members or the Bellator ranking members. There's quite a few of them who I like actually on there, and I speak to quite regularly. But as Mike said, I think there should have been a bit more diversity when it came, because obviously the diversity of the roster. I've got the rankings in front of me right now, and I can only see 3 out of 15 people are international. So you have Rodrigo del Campo from Claro Sports,
Okay.
from the South China Morning Post, and then you have Igor Lazarin from TASS Russia, and then the rest are all from North American outlets. So
it's a lot of MMA junkie too, a lot.
Yeah, there's 2. So you got Nolan King and John Morgan. Shout out to and then the rest are all North American outlets. So it's look, I have no qualms with it, but as Mike said, and as Kairos piggybacked on as well, you do need some diversity given how diverse your roster is. And I don't necessarily think one European Russian-based person is enough, given how many European athletes there are. I mean,
Nicely.
Think how many European athletes they have just in the UK and Ireland alone.
Having one person representing, the Asian community as well is absurd. There's more than one. Just like there's Koreans, Chinese MMA. There's and we just have one. Do you see what I mean? For me, my thing is this: we need rankings, we need structure. This is an MMA organization. People are gunning for the title just like they're gunning for it in the UFC. We need titles. We need rankings. I'm fine with this. Here's where I have an issue. It's not diverse enough. I agree with Kairos. It should be more people. I'm also with Chisanga. Why the fuck is MMA media doing this? We are to be unbiased and just report the facts and what's going on in media and call out things maybe that aren't right. That's like, we're working on doing that right now. Why are they involved with rankings? I went and covered a media event for the WOCAST, right? I took a picture with Thiago Santos. Some fucking security person came over to me and was like, you can't do that, you media. I can't even take a picture with somebody. And now you're telling me I can have say on rankings? There is going to be so much room for error and bias.
Of course,
I think. And then there's not enough diversity. And my lastly, the issue that I have with this is that why would you kind of do this in a way that the UFC does it? The UFC rankings are problematic. And I feel like they're almost like emulating it, or just they're copying this somewhat with a twist of Bellator in it. Come up with your own way to do it and try to surpass the UFC, make Bellator look better than the UFC, than to come up with this. And I'm with Kairos, more people on it, more collective minds, less media on it. And I think there's just so much room for error here, but I don't want to shit on it because it's still coming from a good place. The organization needs rankings. So this is a good start. It's okay to start something and it's not right. It's not perfect. You don't get it right the first time. So let them figure it out and yada, yada, yada. So I don't want to shit on it because they need it. But let them figure it out. Let the errors come. Let the rankings look a little fucked up, and now they gotta make changes.
That's why I was trying to say it at the start.
Sorry, there, Mike. I'll let you go.
That's what I was at pains to say. That's cool. I was at pains to say at the start that this was an interim panel, but I do feel it needs to be diverse. But just to pick up on something which you've said, Chisanga, and G has said in terms of media being involved. Josh Gross, who represents the MMA said around the same time as this was actually publicized that he wanted to remind the MMA members that they should not be involved in this. I mean, is that in keeping with what you think, in that, is it MMA shouldn't be involved, or media across the board shouldn't be involved? I have to say up front as well, I wouldn't be interested in joining this.
No, I wouldn't.
But I'm just interested in what you were saying there in terms of media involvement.
No, media across the board, I think. Media. Well, it could be different. Say, like, if a videographer for MMA Junkie wanted to do it, fair enough, because they're not necessarily putting out articles that can have an impact on a fighter's career, obviously. But yeah, I just go media in general. I don't think we have a lot of, I was about to say we have a lot of power in our pens, but who the fuck writes their stories out in pen before they put them on the computer? We have a lot of power at our fingertips as media members, and I think some of us forget that with what we say and how we act. And when it comes to when it comes to essentially determining the route people might have to take and how much money they might make in X amount of years and what have you, that doesn't sit well with me. And because obviously if you have, say if, for example, I'm just going to bring up Gegard Mousasi. I have nothing against Gegard Mousasi, actually one of my favorite interviews. But say me and Gegard Mousasi have beef or what have you. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to rank this guy as low as possible for like, just because I don't like him. Just say, for example, he turned me down for an interview. I'm just like, I'm just going to rank him. He should be number 5, but I'm going to rank him number 10 all the time. I'm going to rank him number 10. And then the matchmakers start thinking, oh, well, you're well, subconsciously, they might even think, oh, well, he's ranked number 10. You know what? We'll give him, when it comes to re-upping his contract, we won't give him that much money, or we'll only give him an X amount of fights on his contract. So these things, they have a trickle. There's a trickle down effect, and there's consequences from decisions that media members make. And to be honest, I just don't want any part of it. It's like morally and ethically, it just doesn't sit well with me. But then again, this, and I should stress, this is not me saying that, oh yeah, all the people on the panel are doing wrong. Yeah, I can understand why some people want to be involved in a panel because they truly enjoy the sport and they think that what they're doing is going to have a positive impact. And I wholeheartedly believe everybody on that list thinks that way. But for me, I just don't. I don't think media members should be involved in promotions, ongoings whatsoever.
I think there's a way to work around that, though, regarding bias, as well as you trying to be punitive about people not helping you further your career as a journalist. I think that the larger the sample size is, the better it will be for them. That's why if you had 100 people making these rankings, okay, you could throw that fucking 10 out there if you want to. 99 other people gave them 2. Like, that 10 ain't doing shit. Also, I think another issue is this. People want to act like bias isn't real. It is. It's very real. Yeah. I've hated on people. Like, and the fact of the matter is this, though. For us to be like, well, only journalists can be biased about it, and it's just not true. It's just either going to be you doing it or somebody else doing it, which is why you might as well have everybody doing it so you're all in it together and you have a large enough group. And also, I think that there should be measures taking place. Like, there needs to be some sort of like punishments for people who give out these crazy, erratic rankings. Like, I'll give you an example. In college football, Notre Dame played the University of Alabama in the national championship. Alabama was ranked number 1. Notre Dame was ranked number 2. Alabama beat them by 40-something points. The computer after the game had Notre Dame as number 1 still. And then they never used the computer again. That's what needs to happen with the sport. You have these rankings, you have it said, well, this person beat this person. Yeah, but I still put them underneath them, even though they got destroyed. All right, you're done with the rankings. We'll get somebody else to switch you in. We'll put in Kairos for you. We'll put in G for you. So like this, people are making it seem like it's impossible. It's not impossible. People have done it. People are doing it, and people will continue to do it. It's just you having the foresight to see what works and then going about it that way versus you just saying, all right, we'll take that, and then we'll throw our little twist in. It's like, no, motherfucker, there's a proven format to do it. Just follow other people's.
Agreed.
Speaking of college football, we got to talk about that guy getting his ass handed to him. His name.
I can't remember. He's in Oklahoma though.
Oh my goodness!
You're talking about that clip of the 2 dudes that were they had MMA training and 2 bullies stepped to them and they just wreck shop.
Yeah, cowboy boots on.
Let me tell you something, y'all. Let me just put in my law enforcement, tidbits in this. I love that video, but let me tell you, those kids are in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, if those people that they beat up want to file a report, sue, arrest them, it will happen. When you defend yourself, you got to like pull back. You can't kind of lay on a dude and just beat the shit out of him in a library, in the bathroom. So I worry about the consequences of that video, but I love that. You don't know how many times I've arrested the winner of a fight, even though he didn't start it, because his eye fell out. I have to take you to jail now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you went too far. And apparently that's what happened to one of the guys that he fought.
His eye, like he nearly lost his eye.
He nearly lost his eye. So as much as we celebrate this redemption bully video, them young men are in trouble and we don't see it behind the scenes, I'm sure. And I pray for them because I'm fine with what they did. Legally, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Always check the cauliflower, man. Always check the ears. You know what I mean?
Facts.
That's a giveaway. But
Do you
I
know?
think they've been fucking with him for a minute. I don't think that was the first fucking situation.
of course,
It looked like it was.
No, he had a
multiple.
bloody nose before he threw the little short punches. He was touching his nose, and then I think he looked at his friend like, "Which one you want?" Because like we didn't see the part where he had a bloody nose.
Yeah, of course, 100%. So I mean,
You see, whilst you're on this, I'm kind of interested. What is reasonable force then? Because really, truly,
I can't fall out.
Started. What's that?
Your eye can't fall out.
Okay.
Do you know I worked with some police officers that went to the strip club, got drunk, and they got into a fight, and a police officer beat someone so bad his eye fell out. And it's an actual charge. It's called maiming. It means like you've hurt someone so bad you've maimed them. They no longer work for the police department, and they might have done time. Like it's true. Yeah, you can't. Self-defense is not beating the shit out of somebody and they're just like, well, they started it and that person's dead on the floor or their eye is missing. Like there is a point of you have to pull back. And it's like pulling back means once the threat is over, you're good. Yeah. So once they hit the ground and they was like, we getting fucked up, they were supposed to back up.
Yeah, I think so.
The ground and pound was too much.
But there wasn't a point in that video where you could have really pulled back from what I could see because it was an ongoing tussle and struggle. So that's why I'm asking you, in that video, when did they pull back?
Nah, there was
after you take them to the ground and you show your dominance and you have to step back.
Yeah, like double underhooks, man. And there was a point.
Ground and pound. The dude was like,
he had a back mount. Like
he had a lot.
Like, I mean,
I'm telling you, I love that video. They in trouble.
But yeah, don't get me wrong. Like the
guy don't laugh.
The guy was acting like an absolute dick. Like you could tell he thinks that he's the well, I'm trying to think of a term that you guys are understanding. He thinks he's the dog's bollocks. Mike obviously knows what that's saying. He thinks he's the shit, basically. Oh yeah, I play for Oklahoma State, blah blah blah.
That ass got waxed.
And he thought he saw a smaller looking guy and he thought, you know what? Let me just pick on these guys, blah, blah, blah. I'm a football player. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'll be able to take this guy. I bench 300 pounds, bro. But well, that bench press ain't do shit for you in that situation.
That's the first person to call the police. You don't know how many times I responded to a call. And I wasn't even like uniform cop for long. And I can tell the story over and over. My career was mostly in narcotics, plain clothes. But I can't tell you how many times I showed up to a club and then somebody's laid out on the floor. You wake them up. What happened? He punched me in the face. And then you go talk to the dude that punched him in the face. Oh, he grabbed my girlfriend's ass. But guess who has to go to jail because you broke his nose?
Yeah.
Oh.
The guy who was protecting his woman. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for the listeners and the three of you, if you have to protect yourself, keep in the back of your mind. Don't make sure the eye don't fall out. Make sure you're not rear naked choking them, even, and they're tapping. I even think I saw the guy tap because let me tell you, if they're not going to be held criminally responsible for this, they're going to sue the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
So y'all be careful, but I love the video. I'm all for it.
But at the same time, even if they do sue, I think the people that were in the surrounding areas will probably attest to the fact that they were the aggressor.
And those kids look like they have money. I mean, I don't know them, but if they get a good defense, they can fight this, is what I'm saying. And also too, sometimes charges get dropped when the judge sees that, like, yeah, you went too far, but some judges, I've seen a judge be like, leave the courtroom, you're okay. And the guy who beat the shit out of somebody in defense is like, word? Okay, I'm out of here. But you still go through the process of getting arrested. You still go through it. It can't be done on the scene. If those young men called the police, those two men that we are celebrating, they'd be out of here. They'd be in the back of it. I'd be like, sorry guys, I loved your work, but I gotta lock you up.
And oh man, like, and I saw in the comments, people were like, oh, Chase Hooper beat the shit out of that guy. Like,
I went with Ben Askren.
Yeah, it was beautiful work though. Like some of those takedowns, the mount, Jesus. And then just the confidence he had. My man said, "Word, which one you want?"
Yeah.
I was like,
it was the wipe of the nose, the slap, the left hook, and then
the shake in the head. It was like, man, baby, you can tell those two young men when they done doing their jobs or whatever, they roll on the floor somewhere every day, and that was second nature to them.
Yep.
That's why I can't wait for gyms to open so I can kick somebody's ass when they step to me, y'all. I'm ready. I done bought a fucking heavy bag. I need training, y'all.
Just before we wrap up, this weekend we've got Rosenstruck versus Gunn. Now, I normally like pick somebody from the mid or even, someone on the prelims, but man, I can't wait to see Gunn versus Rosenstruck, only because props to G. You got to exalt G in this one. She was the person who put me on to Gunn and said, no, Mike, how do you mean that you miss prelims? Keep an eye on this guy. He's incredible. He looks phenomenal. But no, for you guys, who else are you looking forward to seeing on Saturday?
It's got to be surely co-main event Nikita Krylov against Ankalaev, man. That's gonna be carnage. And obviously, I think if memory serves me right, this is Ankalaev's first fight since he beat the possum. You know who I'm talking about. What's his name?
Kutalaba.
Yeah. As I said in here I've got a lot of respect for Ion, obviously, as a mixed martial artist and what have you. But I mean, when he played possum in that fight, their first fight, and he's like, "Oh no, I wasn't hurt, bro," but that was just stupid. But anyway, that's going to be a really good fight. And if memory serves me correctly, Angela Hill's fighting on this card as well, isn't she?
Yeah.
Ashley Yoder. Yeah, and it's a rematch. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously you got Pedro Munez against Jimmy Rivera. That's a big fight for both men, because obviously Pedro lost to Frankie last, if memory serves me correctly, and Jimmy, who did he fight last? Anybody? He beat Cody Stamen.
Frank Edgar.
No, Jimmy Rivera.
Oh, damn.
You just throwing out names there.
Yeah, I literally did. I'm sorry. I literally just threw it out there thinking.
Nah.
It's all good.
Obviously, he had the back-to-back losses to Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. And I mean, given the fact that UFC are still looking to trim this roster, looking to cut 60 people, because since December until now, I haven't seen 60 people quietly depart.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was Jimmy Rivera, obviously he's still got a win. He beat Cody, and I believe that was July. I'd still be worried. Like if you were to lose, that'd be losing 3 of your last 4. So it's a big fight for him.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to Alex Caceres versus Kevin Kroom for a couple of reasons. Alex looks good right now, baby. Like he's probably, I hate using the word prime, but he's just feeling good. He's looking good. He is performing well. And I think he's performing the best I've seen him. Yet Kevin Kroom is somebody that has a lot of fight experience. And in his debut, he choked somebody out like it was nothing. He's fun. He's wild. His nickname is the Hillbilly. You put these two together, I think they're going to have fun. And by the way, believe it or not, I'm going with Gain to beat Rosenstruck. I think he has more tools in the bag. He can submit you. He's got the cardio. He's got punches, kicks, and meanwhile, Rosenstruck is just a very cunning striker, kickboxer with some decent takedown defense. Gane has more to beat him, and I'm picking him.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I think it's unanimous, right? I think I love Biggie Boy. He's
me too.
Great striker, as you said, but I think Gane has more tools. I just want to see the Cyril Gane against Francis Ngannou, because that's a fight that has to happen, obviously. Because Francis,
I think it will.
I think it will happen. Francis is left Fernando Lopez quite in. It was an acrimonious departure. I think Fernandez did an interview with the boys in the back. He pretty much laid into Francis and said that he started believing his own hype and blah blah blah. He wasn't this person, and so that's a grudge match that has to happen soon.
Yeah, definitely. But Kairos, did you say what fight? Did everybody say their fight? I'm confused.
I think
I don't remember Kairos is, to be honest with you.
Right, Kairos. Who are you looking forward to?
I wanted to see Raoni Barcelos fight, but he tested positive for COVID.
I know.
So yeah, that was literally the fight that I wanted to watch most. Sure, like I could say Alexis Davis and Sabina Mazo, but it kind of is just pointless because like, okay, Sabina is not a bantamweight. They're fighting at bantamweight. Alexis Davis hasn't been at bantamweight for a minute. So it's just like, why is this fight happening at this weight class? Like, I want Ronnie Barcelos. And also I'm picking Biggie.
Oh, good. Someone needs to pick him. What makes you think he's going to beat Gane, who has all the tools?
Because I've seen him take punishment for 25 straight minutes and still come through with a win. He can wear the shots and he can deal it. I haven't seen Gagne take it and be able to give punishment.
Yeah.
He could be
Yeah.
one of them pretty boys. You're just like, oh, when I'm
Yeah.
delivering it, I'm good to go. But when
Right.
I'm not ready to bet it on him yet.
Yeah.
Oh man,
And also heads up, guys. William Knight versus Alonzo Menifield. Somebody fitting to die. Y'all watch that fight, okay? That's just black on black crime. It's two big black men. They're gonna go in there, somebody dying. So they both have really big muscles. They're both knockout artists. I'm telling y'all to watch this fight. Okay.
It's gonna be a good fight.
Okay.
Yep.
So that was the last thing on the docket. Until Saturday.
And yep.
Who's going to close out the show?
Who's gonna close it?
Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired.
Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Gina, Kairos, and Michael Chisanga, we out.
For fuck's sake, why
that was fun, y'all. That was fun, y'all. Good episode.
Okay.
Well, y'all.
I'm not sure